Today, I want to talk about something that's shaking the very heart of America, a crisis that's turning our fields of abundance into mountains of unsold grain. Have you wondered why your grocery bills keep climbing, or why so many small towns look emptier than before? Let's dive into how recent tariffs are rocking American farms, and what it could mean for all of us. Sheaf of Rice Section 1. The storm hits the farmers. In early 2025, a new wave of tariffs was announced, aimed at dozens of countries. These measures were supposed to protect American industries. But did you know the world struck back almost instantly? China, our largest buyer of farm products, retaliated with a punishing 34% tariff on all U.S. imports, effective April 10th. That's on top of earlier hidden tariffs of 10% here, 15% there. Suddenly, American goods were priced out of the global market. One grain trader put it simply, at 34%, any deal is nearly impossible. According to agricultural experts, these tariffs could spark the worst farm crisis in decades, as our top trading partners look elsewhere. Seedlings Section 2. The impact on grains. Let's talk soybeans first, the lifeblood of U.S. farm exports to China. China used to buy nearly half of all American soybeans, spending over $12.8 billion in 2024 alone. But overnight, with a 44% tariff slapped on, Chinese buyers stopped cold. Grain elevators filled up, literal pyramids of soybeans lay under tarps, exposed to rain and rot. Prices sank dangerously close to break even at around $9 to $10 per bushel. Imagine working a whole year, only to see your crop sit unsold. What would you do? There's a version that this could lead to long-term loss of market share, as China shifts permanently to Brazil and Argentina for their soybean needs. Experts say once trust is broken in trade, it's painfully hard to regain. Sheaf of Rice Section 3. Sorghum and the Ghost Fleet. Then there's sorghum, a drought-resistant grain once vital for Kansas and Texas farmers. It relied almost entirely on China, but with the same 44% tariff, orders vanished overnight. Remember the 2018 trade war? Back then, a 78% duty on sorghum forced ships already sailing to China to turn around mid-ocean, filled with grain no one would buy. Farmers called it the Ghost Fleet. Now in 2025, it's happening all over again, with ships halted before they even leave port. Economists warned this could push sorghum farmers out of business entirely if no new buyers emerge soon. Ear of Corn Section 4. The corn collapse. Corn, often called king of the Midwest, is in no better shape. About 15% of U.S. corn is sold abroad each year. China, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, they've all been important buyers. But China's retaliation added up to a 49% total tariff on U.S. corn. Practically overnight, American corn was priced out of China. Corn futures fell to multi-month lows, near $4.50 per bushel, as a record harvest of nearly 15.8 billion bushels loomed. Instead of prosperity, farmers saw an anchor dragging them deeper into debt. According to analysts, swelling unsold stocks could lead to record levels of grain in storage, forcing desperate sales at a loss, or worse, bankruptcies. Bread Section 5. Wheat under fire. Wheat farmers weren't spared either. China imposed a 49% total tariff here, too. Although China wasn't the biggest wheat buyer, it was the fourth largest, bringing in nearly $482 million in sales last year. Now that market is evaporating. Farmgate prices for wheat dropped to around $5.50 per bushel, just as farmers were recovering from drought. Can you imagine surviving a brutal year of weather, only to have politics crush your profits? Experts say if buyers like Japan and the Philippines continue to look elsewhere, America could lose wheat markets it spent decades building. Cut-a-meat Section 6. Livestock in trouble. It's not just crops. U.S. meat and dairy are being hammered, too. First came a 10% tariff, then an additional 34% surcharge on beef, pork, and poultry. That means roughly 44 to 49% tariffs on American meat exports to China. Consider pork. About a quarter of all U.S. pork is sold overseas. China was a huge buyer, especially for cuts Americans don't eat. Now, orders are drying up. For beef, China was one of the fastest-growing markets since it reopened, but tariffs are stifling demand. Meanwhile, freezers in the U.S. are stuffed with unsold chicken wings, pork cuts, beef, as processors run out of places to store the excess. According to market observers, this glut could send domestic meat prices spiraling, hurting ranchers and packing plants alike. Derelict House, Section 7. Small towns feel the pain. When farms falter, small towns suffer. Shops, diners, equipment dealers, and banks rely on farmers' spending. But now, communities are turning into ghost towns. Diners that once bustled with early morning chatter sit half empty. Hardware stores are slashing hours. Local banks are growing cautious, tightening lending as loan repayment rates fall for the fifth straight quarter. Analysts warn this could lead to a repeat of the 1980s farm crisis, when thousands of family farms folded, devastating entire regions. Dollar banknote Section 8. The financial squeeze. As if collapsing markets weren't enough, costs for farmers have soared. U.S. tariffs on steel, electronics, and fertilizers mean tractors, combines, and fertilizer now cost thousands more. Farm machinery often depends on Chinese parts. With a 25% duty, replacements are pricier than ever. A bitter irony. Farmers are paying more just to plant crops they can't sell. Loan officers report rising delinquencies, while family farm bankruptcies surged 55% in 2024, even before the latest tariffs hit. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, 82 farms filed for bankruptcy, nearly double the number from the same period last year. There is an opinion that if this trend continues, the Midwest could see a wave of forced sales, breaking up farms that have been in families for generations. Oil drums Section 9. Logistics grind to a halt. Ports that once shipped millions of tons of grain are eerily still. Terminals in the Pacific Northwest stand idle. Rail cars sit rusting on tracks. Silos overflow as grain piles up. Economists call it a displacement crisis. With exports stopped, unsold grain floods the domestic market, pushing prices even lower. Meanwhile, Brazil's ports are bustling. Trucks rush soybeans to the coast day and night. Brazilian soybean premiums surged by $1 per bushel over U.S. prices. That's how desperate Chinese buyers are to avoid American crops. According to experts, this could lock in Brazil and Argentina as China's preferred suppliers, permanently shifting global trade flows. Ships Section 10. Shipping tensions rise. In a dramatic move, Washington proposed rules threatening fees up to $1.5 million for Chinese ships at U.S. ports. If enacted, nearly two-thirds of corn export shipments could face massive cost hikes. Farm groups warn this could paralyze shipping, making it even harder for U.S. farmers to get products overseas. There's a version that escalating shipping disputes could spark a broader supply chain crisis, raising costs for everything from food to electronics. Globe showing America's Section 11. The global shakeup. This crisis isn't contained to the U.S. Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Australia, they're all stepping up production. Brazilian ports in Santos and Paranagua are overloaded with soybeans bound for China. Analysts like Carlos Maia from Rabobank say Brazil will replace the U.S. as China's main supplier. Europe could follow China's lead with tariffs of their own on U.S. soybeans, effectively locking America out of both major global markets. According to economists, this isn't a temporary disruption. It's a tectonic shift in agricultural trade, one that could leave America on the sidelines for years to come. Sunrise Section 12. A glimmer of hope? In late May, under intense pressure, a 90-day truce was announced. Some tariffs were rolled back. Soybean prices ticked up slightly. But advocacy groups like the American Soybean Association warn a temporary reprieve won't heal the damage. Farmers need a permanent resolution, not just a Band-Aid. Experts believe if a real deal isn't struck soon, America's rivals will entrench their positions, making it nearly impossible for U.S. farmers to regain lost ground. Thinking Face conclusion. Where do we go from here? So where does this leave us? Across America's heartland, farmers are planting seeds into uncertain ground. They wonder, will anyone buy this harvest? How long can we hold on? According to many analysts, the longer tariffs persist, the more irreversible the damage becomes. Once buyers establish new relationships, they're reluctant to return. And each day of uncertainty drains hope from America's farms. Personally, I believe we're standing at a crossroads. We can keep fighting a trade war that's bleeding our farmers dry, or we can seek a lasting agreement that supports them and strengthens our food security. Because make no mistake, when our farmers suffer, we all feel it, in our towns, our grocery stores, and our economy. What do you think? Should the U.S. double down on tariffs or push for a deal to end this crisis? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth stories like this. Thanks for watching, and let's keep this conversation going.